All right. Give it a sec here. And looks like we're live. Howdy, folks, and I don't know why it keeps kicking me out. All right. We are live. More or less. Double checking some things real quick before I get started. Okay. Well, hello. Welcome back to Factorio. As you might have noticed already, it's evening time. Bit of a departure from previous live streams. Normally I do like around lunchtime-ish. But we're here. And on a Thursday, no less. I had to look at my phone to remind myself what day of the week it was. But I did say for future live streams, I do want to start shooting for Tuesdays and Thursdays, as well as if I'm feeling up to it, because sometimes I have work and such. I was considering doing more, live streams in the evening just to account for that. Because if I want to set a schedule, I have to be able to make sure I stick with that schedule, which is which can be difficult when you're working full time. So, I figure, why not start getting into working more in the evening. I had intended to do this last week. Trouble was, by the time I got off work, I had a bit of a spot of a nasty headache. I say nasty. It probably honestly isn't nearly as bad as that. I'm just weak. Regardless, I did have quite the headache last time, and so rather than actually, do the live stream like I had planned, I just skipped out. Just relaxed, did my own thing. I thought I'd make it up by doing a Friday live stream, but that ended up not happening either because I'm lazy. Which is something I expected to happen. Just some things happening or not happening in this case due to my own laziness. It is an ongoing challenge that I do not intend to use as a regular excuse. Shouldn't be an excuse. Let's make that thing. Make that clear. Laziness is no excuse not to do the things you should do, much less the things you said you'd do. I believe any man should be a man of their word. So if I said I'm gonna start doing Tuesdays and Thursdays and evenings if necessary, then, well, might as well stick to my word. Otherwise, what kind of guy would I be? But with all that said, here we are. Back where I left off, which was got my base set up again, because a couple weeks ago I tore it down because it wasn't quite doing it for me. It got all my basic sciences and whatnot all set up, but wasn't producing much. Expandability was not where I wanted it to be. In that there was practically no expandability whatsoever. Not a great place to be at. If your base is to function, it needs to be able to expand. That's what I found in previous experiences. I figured at least as a start, a quick, starter base wasn't gonna be too bad, at least initially. But that bit me in the butt faster than I expected. Before I knew it, I had a steel stack set up, but I couldn't really do much with it because there was no space to put anything and no good place to improve. So, back to the drawing board. tore down the whole base, put it back together, decided to use blueprints so I can just have a much more planned layout. That is something I'm trying to do more of, because previously I thought maybe I would just do it together and, you know, embrace the spaghetti is I think a word one might use. Then at the very least I would be making progress. But I think that wasn't the best route to go, because, you know, there's something to be said about playstyles, you know? A lot of the best Factorio streamers or best Factorio players probably would have made a tons more progress, considering I am about, let's see, how many hours into this am I? About to approach 8 hours, and I've only gotten like green science. This having admitted that I literally put in 1,000 hours into this game. I imagine it can lead to one asking a very simple question: what have you been doing for those 1,000 hours? Goofing off. That would be the answer I would give. Goofing off. Not allowing myself to really do much. Looking for shortcuts that weren't going to get me anywhere. Being lazy. Messing around with mods. I tell you what, the whole messing around with mods is a really big contributor to why this is taking a lot longer than it's taking me so long to actually beat the game for once. I'm really good at meandering and not doing what I need to do, which is not a good habit to be in. Do not encourage it. So I figure as I progress forward and as I develop a structure, at least a much more effective structure than I've had before. Not entirely sure where that thought was going, now that I think about it. But I have gone into this wanting to, shall we say, tackle things more from a position of more from a place that I'm much more confident in, you know, my own style, shall we say. And I'm a visual person, you know. It does me a lot of good to lay it out like this. This obviously will not be the final base, because this is only good for, hopefully this will be good enough to get things like blue science out the way, taken care of and such. So, and I also do want to include military science in that. So, at least, hopefully this is enough to cover those 4 sciences. And then, hopefully, and that will push me towards, you know, getting the rocket out and everything. I am going to need to expand further out. That's definitely why I'm definitely going to need to get military science off the ground as soon as possible, because I'm going to need it. Before I know it, I'm going to be assaulted on all sides by these bugs. And I don't need that. Don't need biters chomping on my boots. So, where I left off, as I recall, I had set it up to where I've got my gun turrets and my ammo automated. That's about it. I'm going to have to rebuild red and green sciences, because I'm going to need all that. And I think I'm going to work on military first. So, might as well get those sciences, at least rebuild those sciences, and then I believe I'm going to shoot for getting this patch of iron right here, because I'm going to need the extra iron when I start to expand, because I don't know how long this patch is going to last me, and as far as throughput is concerned, I don't think it's going to sustain all 4 sciences, at least not on a scale that I would want it to. So, let's get to work on that. Get the sciences out the way. Better empty out my inventory of all these ammo. Not what I was aiming for. I'll keep a couple stacks on hand just in case. Get that out of the way. Get where are my assemblers? There we go. I'm gonna need to make sure I got that. And inserters. That's way too many inserters. I'm definitely gonna need a lot more long-handed inserters. So. Apologize for any noises I'm making, especially when I go to take a drink. I'm not very versed in the whole mic setup thing, so I'll try not to disturb anybody with my the noises of me drinking and such. However, I will say, some things are just unavoidable. Though they can be avoided a bit better, with, well, foresight. And just not being stupid. Which can be a challenge for me, I will say. What am I doing? Okay, let's start off with red science. Thankfully, it's easy. Let's start with. I'll make sure I'm spaced. And let's go. That one going down. This one going this way. Forget to use certain hotkeys because I'm slow. I'm not like a hotkey savant, so a lot of it will just be me doing random button presses before I remember the right button to press. There we go. All right. Not what I was aiming for. I do believe I explained this design, this science setup in a previous video. I might have, I might not have. It's both of them are entirely possible, but the reason I do it like this is because if I need to expand outward, okay, I'm trying to collect my thoughts here. 1, 2, can't do it much bigger than a lane, so I'm gonna do this. So the idea is I want to make sure I have enough. I want to make these so I can just keep. I can expand outward just so I can meet, the proper amount of. Let's say, I want to say throughput, but that might not be accurate. But if I need to expand make the line have more of a line, so we're getting more gears per second and such. And for other ingredients too, feeding into the science, then I can simply just, add on to it. It's not particularly brilliant, but it works for me. Whoops. This is totally unnecessary, but I like having a nice, layout like such. There you go. Plus, you know me. I gotta have a visual at my disposal, otherwise I'll get confused. Of which I'm very prone to getting confused. Get that down. Oh. That's what I get for building in the dark. I should probably build lamps. I didn't forget about those. I suppose it will be helpful to have lamps set up because, I mean, I don't mind building a base in the dark, but that might not be very fun for y'all. Don't want to be inconsiderate. Get that. Okay. Get that down there. If some of these designs that I do for these assemblers and such don't make much sense to people, I don't blame you. They function for me, so I don't really mind all that much. But I'm sure somebody can take a look at my designs and point out, you know, how flawed they are. Because I am by no means an expert at this game. I'm not gonna pretend to be. Okay, get that. This is going to be a different approach than I've done before because one major flaw I had in this design was belting the science out because I wanted to make sure the science belted directly into the lab. But the route I usually went for didn't quite work the way I intended. Let me think here. I'm gonna have to keep take some things into account, such as I need this line, I need a line here. I'm gonna need a line here. This will make sense later, I promise. Oh, but then I'm doing this wrong, so it will make sense later, but right now it doesn't. Okay, we'll try it again. Okay, 1, 2. At least 2 spaces. But let's say I'm gonna need plastic, and I'm gonna need a belt for sulfur. For when I get into, press the right button. When I get to the blue side, the chemical science, I'm gonna need that. Do I have? Think this should work. I might want to consider a belt for why did I do that? Plastic, red, science. Why did I do that? I think it's for the red circuits. Maybe. That should be fine. Okay. Build this down here. I will build the lab later. Regardless, this should be that should be functional, and that is the basis for my design. I am going to copy some of these because laziness is a hard thing to overcome, so it's good to have these ready to go. Game blueprint. I'll just put these in game blueprints because some of these I might not become standard. Alright, that's operating. And this is going to turn into a red science. And voila, we have red science. I would sit and let this, chug along, get everything ready to go, but I'd rather not sit around. I'm about to get... those biters are gonna get polluted pretty soon, and you don't like them when they're cross. So let's get green science up and running. The sooner we get that done, the sooner we can get, military and chemical science done. Military science, especially, because I want walls, and I want guns good enough to defend those walls, especially since we're already dealing with medium biters, which I can manage with your basic, they're manageable with basic ammo. It's not ideal to tackle medium biters with basic ammo, but it's doable. But I definitely gotta take care of it. But I definitely gotta have military science up well before I start dealing with big biters, because I can't manage big biters without armor piercing rounds. I've tried before. It was a nightmare. So not looking forward to a repeat of that. So let's get the sciences moving. We got this. I'm going to need. Let's start with belts. And let's just do a quick repeat of this. Wait, where am I at? There we go. Definitely gonna need a lot more assemblers. I can go a bit further out. Yeah, okay. Alright, got that. Same basic principle as the red science build, so I'll just use the same blueprint. No, that's not it. There you go. Although I'm definitely not. I'm not gonna make a beeline. I'm not gonna cut through the main bus with this. I'm gonna shimmy it more to the side. Definitely gonna need more assemblers. You definitely want something like the belt build to the belt assembly to be a bit bigger than the standard, than just your basic stuff. Because I only need gears and the copper and the gears just to make the sciences. But this is definitely gonna make sure this is a decent size, because this will also supply my basic supply the basic economy. I did something wrong here. I just looked at that blueprint and realized I forgot an important step. Okay, I had 2 assemblers. I wasn't even doing anything. Plugging up holes. There's gonna be a lot of that. Holes in your design, because no design is perfect. I'm sure some people would debate that there are such a thing as a perfect design, but not the ones I make. I can tell you that. Apparently I didn't copy and paste the poles. That's weird. Okay, there we go. And let's see. Let's move this along. I probably will end up expanding expanding again down the road when I do when I want to include other sciences like get my thoughts together here. Purple science, for example. I'm gonna need that. I forget I'm not playing with a mod. I got to account for single lane traffic. I want to saturate it as much as possible, which means I'm gonna have to do some more stuff like that too here. I saw a video where someone was trying to figure out how to do that to like get them to using a single line, like making a single line fully saturating a single line of a straight line of belts, and a lot of solutions they were using was a lot of convoluted mess. And then all you gotta do is this. It helps when you understand that inserters will always drop on the same side, like by default. And people can, it does help to have a, when you saturate your belt, have a fully saturated belt and such. And sure, there are situations that call for just single-sided belts. Me personally, I don't really care for that, so yeah, that's how I like to do it. And I'm realizing an important step that I forgot. Yep, knew it. I was about to skip past green circuits. They're gonna need those. Better do that before I forget again. And already throughput is a disaster, but it's fine. I was gonna make sure I got these. Did that wrong? I'm sure a single line of copper can manage this. It will have to. I may have to nab that second patch of iron sooner than expected. I think I'll just get the green science up and running again, even if it is a slow trickle until I get the other iron patch to increase throughput. A slow trickle is better than no trickle at all. Not one of my finer sayings, but I think it works. Yep. Classic. That's why I gotta take things slow. I do dumb things like that. Matter of fact, I might want to slow this down a little bit. I'm going for like a fully saturated line, but let's just go for. Gotta stop doing that. Let's get it off the ground first before I run out of assemblers. Alright, there you go. This is not a design I came up with myself. I'm not that smart. A lot of earlier designs I would use for green circuit assembly were a lot more convoluted. And just like that, we got green circuits. Well, like I said earlier, small trickle is better than no trickle. But it's a good thing I got that out of the way, because I was going to need it. I need to make me some assemblers. And those take green circuits. So let's get back to work on that. Although, I better get... I'm still going to be doing quite a bit of handcrafting, because I haven't automated... some things I have yet to automate. So I'm going to go grab me some materials and start handcrafting some more assembly machines. Look at that whimper of a small trickle of iron coming down. Yeah, and this thing is draining fast. Yep, I'm definitely gonna have to grab the iron mine as soon as I can. Alright, let's start off with... Let's make enough for like 200 of these, I guess. But I need to fold. I don't have enough. Bummer. I don't have enough for any of it. That's not good. Alright. Alright. 200 might have been a bit unrealistic. Let's just make as much as we can. I didn't make a collection box for the copper. What a fool I am. And boom. That'll take a bit, but hey, at least we'll get more assemblers. Still gonna need plenty of those. Did I set up a collection box for? No, I did not. All right, very good at that. Let's line it up with the copper. Let's line it up with the iron one, just so I'm not. Just so at least try to look neat. There you go. Just so we got some on hand, you know? Now I'm going to watch, rinse, repeat this design here, because you're always gonna need a lot of gears. All right. We got to elevate this one a bit higher because the belts are gonna be running underneath. So, and this is not quite the correct amount of throughput. That's fine. We can fix it later, though. And I need more red inserters. Sorry, long-handed inserters. I need a lot more iron. So one mod I use a lot, and I don't know if I mentioned this before. My recollection is not perfect, but one mod I use a lot is Bob's inserters, because it just makes some designs work incredibly well, because you can have a lot more varied designs. Have a lot more. Your design's gonna be a lot more compact, a lot more dynamic. It's a must-have, if you ask me. Now I'm gonna have to deal with inserter protection, which requires at least quite a bit. So let's get this up here. Now, I have designs figured out for whether or not I need, how to put this. Back in the day, before I figured out an effective way of using a single line with multiple items on it, I relied heavily on... I keep using the wrong word. Let me put it this way. Depending on how many ingredients there are in a certain recipe, I always insisted that there be at least a belt full of every single one. So if it's a recipe that requires a single one, then you only need one line. That's where you get the design. That's where you get this design here for the gears. Really easy. You got one line doing it like this, and then the other line is for the output. So you got input output all together right here. Very simple, very easy to follow, as for me at least. But then you gotta take into account 2 lines, and you need to be a bit more creative with your belt. With your I say creative. You just need to expand, use long inserters, everything. But then you run into the issue of now you need a lane for your output. So that's why I do the lines on the outside. I'm sure people would do it differently, but that's generally how I like to do it, especially if you want to get like a fully saturated belt and such. But then you get to 3 recipes that require 3 ingredients, and that's where you get this design. Apologize. I'm sure that's a bit of an odd. That spiel is a bit weird, but I figure I might as well explain my ideas while I'm doing them. Plus, sometimes talking through processes helps me think about them better. Enemies being damaged. Of course, they would go right for the vulnerable spot. And it's always and of course they go right for the belts. It's like, hey, he got belt production up. Let's go trash it. Heaven forbid he has enough time to expand properly. But I am expanding further out. I'm about to hit the border of my radar, and I'm gonna be a lot closer to these bad boys. Thinking which was the wrong button. It's not too bad. So, though it's definitely gonna ramp up the further out I get. Okay, got that down. Now I need to bring these bad boys up. Get that. As functional as this design is, my least favorite part about it is it's a lot harder to get like a fully saturated lane. Like this part is easy, just 2 assemblers on either side, but this is a single lane. There's a single line, and it can only deposit onto a single lane. It works, don't get me wrong. It's nice that it works, but I would like it better if saturation was a lot easier, which it always was with Bob's inserters. But I suppose I spoiled myself by using Bob's inserters. But nonetheless, with that, we have inserters. I probably should have blueprinted the design because I'm definitely gonna be using it a lot more. But whatever. It ain't gonna kill me. Just make me deeply uncomfortable. And better do this now before I forget. Bring this down. And voila. Now we're on to the assembly. Keep an eye out. There we go. Those guys are getting a whiff of my smog. One, two. Eek. How far up do I want this to go? So I'm trying to think about how I want to assemble this. Don't know why I went a little like it ended up like that. Alright. It ain't perfect, but as long as it works. I found as far as ratio is concerned, you're gonna need a lot more assemblers for green circuits than as opposed to red. Don't know why. It's probably just some sort of arbitrary wait time. Maybe it's just there. Maybe it's just there to. Maybe it's just like that way because it makes it easier to you know. Actually, I don't know where that thought was going. Sorry. You know how I am with trying to multitask, trying to focus on playing the game, so you're not just sitting here watching a dude stare at a screen. But then you run into the issue of, well, I'm not gonna just not talk. There's no point in watching a live stream where I just sit in uncomfortable silence. Don't think anybody came for that. So that's not on the agenda. Now I just need to belt this over here. Yeah, I could. I'm going to. Just give me a bit more space. And then right here. You might think this design is unnecessarily convoluted, and it probably is. But like I said, I've been using it for a long time, and it works for me, so. Although to be fair, this particular setup has changed in many different directions, because I always try a different idea, and if I like the idea, then I run with it, and if I didn't, then I try to figure out if I can flesh it out in some other way. Doesn't always work that way, but you know, it's good to try at least. I need more undergrounds. And this time, I better not forget the. Let's see, it would typically go where? Here, here, and here, I think. Yeah. I don't know. I think it adds a nice detail to the design. It's functional, and it looks nice. And aren't those the best designs? And let's bring it together. And voila, we have green science. Eventually, this science is a lot slower compared to red science. And I guess if I got both sciences, I might as well rebuild the lab. How do I want? Now I think about it. How do I want to assemble this? Okay, so time for another planning sesh, because I have already got an obstacle I need to figure out. Yeah, definitely gonna be attacked a lot more. Okay, better set up a defensive line while I deliberate. So, I want some space underneath here. Just gonna give a bit of a preview into what my thought processes are. But I want some space underneath the bus, so I can account for things like. That's what I'm looking for. I want to use that space for red. Sorry, I don't mean to struggle like this. Red circuits. I'm gonna need the red circuits. Although I'm debating now that I'm thinking about it, I might probably be debating with myself, because I don't really need to make develop an entire belt to red circuits if I'm only doing the first 4 sciences. What did I come over here for? Oh yeah, I need to set up a defensive line, which means I need ammo. Spoilage. Didn't I just burn off? I think I normally just burn off spoilage. That's no big deal. I'm gonna rebuild the lab, but I want a defensive perimeter while I do that, so it's got ourselves a defensive perimeter. Better empty out my bag. I don't want to be drowning, and I don't want to find myself drowning in intermediates. There you go. And that earlier was a demonstration of how my mind works a lot of the time. Sometimes I just talk it out when a thought is forming, and then becomes a bit more concrete the more I think about it. So, and talking it out just helps, you know. Okay. I guess 2 belts wasn't quite the saturation. It didn't quite work with the amount of throughput I'm getting right now, which is no big deal, honestly. I'm going to be expanding the iron mine anyway, so it is what it is. Definitely gonna need walls for that. Which, you know, now that I think about it, I may want to just assemble, at least get wall assembly up and running before I go try to conquer that. Before I go grab the Iron Man, or I could do both. Yeah, both is not gonna work. I'll get wall production up before I head over to the iron mine, because I would definitely want to start putting up a perimeter defense. Nothing permanent, nothing that will stay the way it is. Just something that will help me get something that'll keep me alive, because I'm not gonna be able to knock out every single one of those nests, and with biter expansions and everything, I'm not gonna be able to rushing in, taking out nests will only let me so far. So defensive perimeter is gonna have to go up. These are gonna be moved. Definitely gonna have to be moved once I get to pushing out more, increasing my throughput. But nonetheless, that's a decent enough defensive line. So back to what I was doing. I was literally asking myself if I needed a line for rocks. Oh, no, I did. Just not the rocks I was thinking of. Wait. That's okay, I can fix this. Let's see. Okay. Unite it into a single line. Bring the line down. And how are we going to arrange the lab? Do I want it going long ways, or let's do it long ways? Just because I can. Doesn't need to be anything fantastic. Just, you know, if it's functional, we'll work with it. Alright, science is back up. So the thing I messed up on a little bit was, or maybe I didn't. I only need one line for, yeah, okay, no, yeah. Wasn't the mistake I thought it was. I was thinking I forgot to put an entire line down for coal and stone, but I'm not gonna need stone because that is for purple science. This is only 4 sciences. This is just for the 4 sciences. I'll expand the belt. Include a bigger part. I'll make the belt bigger once I get to purple and yellow science. But that may just be entire base redo at that point. Cause, well, I guess you might think it a mistake to be playing it like this, but that's kind of. But I think something you just gotta plan for, you know. Even having to completely redo the base multiple times. I mean, I'm already gonna have to redo the base on a massive scale once I get through a majority of the planets. That's just how that's how it's gonna go. Because obviously, once you get to like things like Vulcanus, you're gonna have to reshape your. When you start implementing things like the furnaces in Vulcanus, the electromagnetic chambers from Fulgora. Probably not gonna use the bio chambers from Gleba on Novice, but a lot of really big, important sciences will be discovered on Gleba, so that's gonna be a major thing. And of course, the cryo plants from Aquilo, all that's gonna work together. In the final base, but until that day comes, I'm gonna use the resources I got at my disposal here. Okay, having said all that, got landfill up. Let's get stone walls up. Get that going. And I'll use a design, and thankfully that's a single ingredient item, so I'll just use the same basic design as the gears, but I'm going to change it to walls. Let's see, I have the one at least 3 lines like this. That will be helpful later. I'm debating with myself how late I want to take this, because right now, I don't know. Right now it is around 9. It's a little past 9:30. And I am by no means an early to bed, early to rise type guy. I'd like to be both. I would like to be an early riser, but going to bed early is the challenge. It is usually the challenge. You know, often it's because I'm just too busy, you know, goofing off, playing video games and the like. That's how I am. So you get that all together, and all I need to do is this. And then do this classic move here. Get that plugged in, and voila, we got walls. All right, that taken care of. Let's set up another defensive line here, just in case, you know. I doubt they're gonna try and trash these belts down here, cause, well, you know, I better set up a defensive line by the lab at least. I don't know how biters feel about science being done nearby them. They may be they may like it, they may hate it, they may be entirely indifferent to it. I'm not entirely sure, but just in case. So wall of guns, just in case. And if that doesn't work, then okay, what can you do? But hopefully it works well. It works well enough to get myself set up while I get myself another iron mine. So let's get to work on that. I'm debating about the time because I know I usually try to shoot for 2 hours. And that the 2 hour thing normally doesn't happen because I'm usually tired. Lack of sleep is the general culprit. That and my own general laziness, but a lot of it is live streaming is a new experience for me, and it's a muscle I had not flexed before. And in prior experiences, I've tried doing like video recordings and such, and then I find out kind of the hard way that those are one thing I'm not particularly big at, or not particularly skilled at is let's just say talking to myself is not something I would say I'm particularly well versed at. Not that you need, not exactly, it's not necessarily that I need to be, but it's something I'm just not big on. So it's something that I find myself struggling with it a little bit. It takes it out of me, you know. It takes a lot more energy than I was expecting. And since I'm going to be grabbing another iron mine, I'm going to expand the ore belt real quick. Another classic example of my poor planning. You live and you learn, you know. I'm not super bummed about having to switch things up a little bit at this stage of things. You know, like I said, it is what it is. This is a slightly different design than what I normally do. Because normally whenever when I'm doing things like smelting ore and such, I generally smelt it on site, but as it is, it will probably be better if I belt the ores to my little smelting area here instead, because that way the only pollution I have to worry about will be the miners, and well, it won't solve the pollution problem. Hopefully it will at least lessen the impact of it. Before we unite that, better to cut it off here at the top. Don't want a belt full of stone. At least not one that I'm about to take. At least not one that I'm about to take apart. That's for sure. It'll be tons of fun once I had to shift over the copper and the iron stacks. So that'll definitely be that'll be a fun. All right, follow it down. And then just gonna let this one run out first before I connect them. And pollution cloud is definitely on top of these guys now, so I'm actually surprised I haven't been attacked a lot more often. I don't know if that just means that they're Yep. Oh, wait. Yep. I've definitely been attacked, but I don't think I got an alert for that one. That's concerning. Must not have done much damage. Better fix that. Better fix that just in case. That would be cool, you know. I just haven't noticed the attacks because my guns have been, you know, so powerful enough to where it doesn't really matter all that much. That would certainly be nice. It's not gonna last very long though, because you know, always gonna run into those issues. And now that I think about it, how's my power doing? All right, we're close to maximum, which means I'm definitely gonna have to do a power expansion before I grab that mine, because mines are taxing on the power grid. Always something you gotta do, you know. You want to expand, but you don't want to. You want to be able to do more of this, but you're gonna have to expand first, which means you're gonna need more space. You know, get more space. You gotta kill bugs, and of course, once you get more space, you want to expand, but then you need power, so you gotta build power, and then you gotta do all this stuff, and it's just problem after problem after problem, and you solve these problems one thing at a time. Yeah, solve enough problems, and you get to go home. I believe that was a line on The Martian. Good movie. What am I here for? I came up here for a reason. Oh yeah. I need a lot more iron than that. Definitely a lot more pipes than that too. Oof. Let's see, I expanded my 5 and everything. I thought I could make that work. All is done. Got all that taken care of. Went to go repair. Okay, I went to go repair this, and I did because I'm going to expand out to this. But I need to expand power first. So, also I need to fix up the belt. All right. Okay. Yeah, I remember what I was doing now. Might as well just expand the shift over this real quick, so that at least everything will still be moving by the time I need it to be. If that hopefully that sentence made a sense. You know what? I don't think I need to. Yeah, I don't need to shift over the iron. I need to shift over the copper. And copper does not need to extend much further than down. Nope, wrong button. Bring you down here. Eventually I'll get this correct. Eventually. Lord be willing. Down here. Doesn't need to go much deeper than that because I don't think I need copper past that point. Alright. Iron's clear. Oh, sorry, not iron. Stone's clear. Now I can take apart this belt. Sometimes when you're executing a plan, you don't realize you're making yourself a problem you gotta solve further down the road. I think I didn't do it wrong per se, but doesn't quite line up the way I intended it. Classic case of it is what it is. About to get me so stronger explosives. Probably not strong enough to clear trees yet, but I'm just not realizing I'm gonna have to start employing the classic deforestation tactics. Oh boy, that'll be a trip. If anyone's confused about what I just said, eventually, down the road, the one resource that will become practically useless will be trees. And once that happens, you're going to find yourself with another issue. You're going to have all these trees in your way. You need to expand your factory, but you can't expand your factory where there's trees everywhere. So you got to get rid of the trees. But you know what's incredibly tedious to do? Take down every single tree you see. It's super annoying. Especially since the character can only mine one thing at a time. But thankfully, there is a solution of sorts. One method that does speed things along is the grenade trick, which basically is once you unlock grenades, which these grenades right here, they're easy enough to make. They just take iron and coal, but you use them and you chuck them, and it blows up literally everything it sees, and that includes it can destroy trees, rocks, and if you're not careful, it can destroy you. Very useful for combating groups of bugs, but I personally prefer them used as deforestation instruments. Or I should say, instruments of deforestation, whichever you prefer. Of course, the bots as a deforestation method tends to become obsolete once you get grenades specifically. Grenades become obsolete as a deforestation method once you unlock bots. Which is a bit further down the road. Obviously, I need to do blue sciences first. The blue science first before I even unlock bots. And of course, I need a whole bunch of setup. Gonna need the red circuits. Gonna need plenty of oil and all that yada yada. All that stuff needs to go up before I get my hand on bots. So until I do, I'm gonna have to make use of the resources I got at my disposal, which happens to include grenades. Not gonna lie, I'm oh, there it is. All right. Suspicions have been confirmed. They are sending attacks. They're just dying before they even get to my guns. Which, not gonna lie, it's kind of awesome. Bro. Copper's gonna come grinding to a halt here in a bit, which is fine. It is what it is. I'm gonna try not to overuse that phrase. Alright. Got that taken care of. I need to fix up the copper here in a bit. It's pretty soon that copper, even if it's just one smelting stack. Pretty soon that copper is gonna run down, and then production is gonna halt for a bit while I plug up this hole here. But I might as well just remove these belts right here. Gotta do all that. I gotta expand power real quick, and then finally claim the iron mine that I've been talking about this whole time. Would that things could happen instantaneous, but unfortunately, that's not the kind of world I live in. It's definitely not the world. It's definitely not the world of this game. You gotta do things in Factorio time, which has no way to there's no way to quantify what Factorio time is, so it's meaningless. What am I doing? All right, expanding power. I don't have pipes on me. That makes sense. Gonna need pipes. No, wrong button. Alright. And all you gotta do is plug it in. And voila! Power has been expanded. By a decent margin, honestly. And copper continues to go down. Gonna go get this copper plugged back in before anything comes grinding to a halt. Because you know it will. It always does. You'll know your factory isn't working properly when everything just stops. Which has happened to me a number of times. A number of times I'm not willing to admit because some of them are a little embarrassing. But so just like that, everything's moving. And with that, I think it's a good time to finally grab that iron mine. Better plug some things in real quick before I forget, though. One, I just been walking around with these science packs in my inventory. They're doing nothing while they're just sitting there. Doing anybody any good? It's just sitting in my inventory. Alright, let's go get that iron mine. Well, I'll go better grab the necessary resources. I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab the iron mine, and then if I have the time, or let's go just shoot for grabbing the iron mine. I'm gonna grab the iron mine, belt it back to the base. I'm gonna belt it back. I know I talked about trains. I even got the research for it and everything, but I don't think I'm gonna shoot for trains just yet. I think when I expand, when I do another base, so when I do another base expansion, I'll try to get a train network figured out. But right now, I think I'm just gonna belt everything to that essential refining area. Yeah. I gotta get rid of these two. I'll get that eventually. Put this here. I don't need this many bricks in my inventory. Once again, gotta purge the inventory of all the intermediates. I don't need inserters for this. There you go. Got a decent amount of all this. I better... Do I? Yeah, better. I want more power poles, so 2 of these. But of these, I'm gonna need at least 2. At least there you go. And there's that, and then of course I'm gonna want these big. I'm gonna want the big ones, so 5 of these. And then how many? At least 2. And then big electric poles. And I guess if I want to add, I'm gonna need plenty of belts. So I'm gonna belt all that over. Plenty of miners too. I mean, it's just down the road. It's not like I need to prep a whole lot, but I don't like having to make multiple trips to places, especially when it's just like a lot of back and forth. And I come to think of it, is it in? Yeah, it's outside of radar range. Means I'm gonna need more radar. Oh boy, I'm gonna grab some of these. Or just grab some irons while I'm at it. Build myself a couple of radars so I can expand the perimeter outward, because I don't want to have the. I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense setting up an entire iron mine that I can't see. Okay, I came here for belts. Because I need me belts. Better grab a bunch just so I can turn some of them into splitters and undergrounds. Which I'm gonna need plates for. Good thing I got plates right over here. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Man, that's kind of goopy. Just gonna make a bunch of those. While I'm here, make a bunch of splitters. Make a bunch of undergrounds. More splitters. Turn the rest into undergrounds. I'm gonna need lots of these going forward, so, you know. I might, yeah, I'm gonna need ammo. I'm gonna need walls. I don't have the inventory space for all this, so. Where did I put all the... Did I seriously use up all the ammo? Setting up those... That's weird. Alright. Let's just go grab it from the other box. That's weird. It didn't last nearly as long as I thought it would. Weird. Well, it's a good thing I had this set beforehand. Gonna need it. I got plenty of turrets, so there you go. Oh, now we're starting to see some damage. Doesn't look like it's too bad though. She can't be too careful. I better not forget, I manually inserted the ammo into all of these, so I'm gonna have to reload them after a while. So better keep that in mind. Well, on our way to get the iron mine, and as I like to say, onward to glory. Which, if anyone is not aware, is a Warhammer quote. Specifically, it's from Dawn of War. It's the RTS game. It's probably my favorite quote in that whole game. I quote it almost daily. Keyword here being almost. There's not always a reason to say it, and I don't talk a lot every single day. So I think as I was more rambling on earlier than actually stating anything, I think I'll get the iron mine set up and belt it in and then call it there. I doubt it'll take too long, but I think that's a good stopping point for me, since I'm about an hour and a half in. Not quite 2 hours, but I had a late start, so, and I don't want to be up too late. I do have work in the morning, so I gotta deal with that. So, and I did have an issue. I did have a headache issue earlier today. Well, not today. It was last night. I had major headache last night. I had to rest off, and I was concerned about it because of that. I was concerned about tonight, but whether or not I was even gonna be able to do a live stream tonight. On account of the headache I was dealing with, and I still feel a bit of it, like a lingering sensation from it, but nothing honestly, nothing major. I know it can be different for some people, but for me, every time I get a headache, I just feel absolutely drained, and then I'll go to sleep, and that'll generally fix it. But and at the cost of, comes at a bit of a cost. The main thing is all that sleep was spent healing the headache, so I didn't get a whole. So when I wake up the next day, not very rested. And of course, they're gonna go for the one part that I didn't reinforce. Sometimes I wonder if the AI is smarter than I think it is. And of course, knowing me and knowing AI, not that I'm super familiar with AI, but it wouldn't surprise me if that's exactly the case. That it's a lot smarter than I give it credit for. And you know what? Don't know where that thought was going. Probably nowhere. No matter. Okay, build me a wall right here. I'm not exactly one to employ cliffs in my base defense, but we're here, might as well. At least I'll save on walls. All right. I'll put up guns later. Okay. I don't need a ton of space, but I do want a decent amount. And I'm thinking, how many belts do I want? How many belts? Two should be fine. Throughput won't be amazing, but you know, it'll be fun. It'll work. Actually, you know what? I better make it 3 because this is shrinking down to where I might as well just change this to a single lane mine, and then the rest will be filled with this bad boy here. Better close that out too. I guess this is a good place to start, as I need to start. That cliff is going to get in the way. There you go. It ain't pretty, but it'll work. And then no, that's not my motto, but it is something I'm gonna find myself saying quite a bit. And problem has already surfaced. I didn't leave myself space for power poles. Oh well. Who needs a voice? No, I can leave that one actually. Times like these it remind me about how nice it is to have a mining patch planner. Well, I'll like to. And this guy can stay. Is that? No, that's not Fatch. It's really hard to tell. There you go. Should be enough to saturate that whole thing right there. There you go. And then just figure out where I'm going to put this right here. I think I'm going to do it like this. Yeah, that'll work. Yep. Of course they're gonna go for the coal. They always go for the coal. They die going for the coal. Right there. Gotcha. I'm not. No. Having set all this up, I might not have enough miners for this whole thing, which is not a bad problem to have. It's just, you know, exactly the sort of thing I wanted to avoid, having to just run all the way back just to get something I forgot. You know, I'd like to be able to have this all done in one go, but in a classic case of just me being me, there's always something I forget. There you go. Yeah, I'm not gonna have enough. Oh well. I tried. Honestly, I was probably gonna have to go back and grab some more stuff anyway. Because I don't think I'm not entirely sure. I don't think I have enough walls. Definitely don't have enough ammo to create a proper defensive line. Because this will be pumping out decent amount of pollution. I can still, I can still blueprint it. I think I'll just do that. I'll blueprint the rest. Because at least that way I'll have the arrangement done. Looks weird, but eh. At least I can see the mining area. Would not have worked as well as I would like if I couldn't see the mining area. You know, I gotta have that reference. I gotta have the visual reference, you know. And does this reach over? No, it does not. It's not gonna be a whole lot, but eh. Why you get that really weird, getting that really weird deja vu sensation? Or I feel like I've done this exact same thing not too long ago. And like reliving it. Not sure. This does not need to have its own thing. I'm just gonna loop it like this. And voila. Bit kooky looking, but eh. That's like Factorio in a nutshell, you know. All right. Okay, grab some meds. And of course, I still need to plug it in. So, and you know what? I forgot. Forgot to expand the radar. I'll live. I'm gonna have to do that next. But first things first, I need to condense 5 into 3. That's not what I was looking for. There you go. 5 to 3, 5 to 3, 5 to... Do I not have a... This might not work under... Oh. Yeah. Alright. New problem. I don't have a blueprint, a belt balancer blueprint for a 5 to 3 lane balancer. Oh, that's weird. Yeah, it's just weird response. Okay. 5 to 3. No, I guess this is wrong. It will, in fact. No, yeah, no, that'll work. Never mind. I do, in fact, have the blueprint. I just don't have the. I have it saved as a blueprint for red belt, but I'll just. But everything should work exactly the same. And if anyone's curious, no, I did not make these designs myself. I'm not that smart. There's a website that has a lot of the designs saved up, and I just copy the images from that. And voila! That's 5 lanes balanced into 3. And while I'm at it, I might as well get... Gonna have to expand this a bit here. Don't mind me. Just gonna organize my blueprint book for belt balancers. As it should come as no surprise, I have many. As stated in the previous live stream, I am a bit crazy about belt balancers. And then bring this bad boy down. Move it over here. I'm going to duplicate this one. Put that there. Wrong spot. Where is this? Why is it down? I didn't mess something up, did I? I hope not. Change it to that. And we have a new belt. New blueprint. Why is it all the way over there? Alright. And we gotta belt these guys down. Now it comes a big question. How are we gonna get that? What route are we going to take when belting these down? And while we're at it, put up some walls. Wall there, and now I think I'll just make a big old wall right around here for the sake of continuity. This would be a lot easier if I had grenades. I don't, though. Whoop-de-doo. Got that walled in, and then I need to figure out what route how am I gonna do this. I don't want it to go. I suppose I can go. Make this so much easier myself. We holding steady? Yeah, we holding steady. Let's go this way. I'll just connect over there. Now I'll just be. And then I'm gonna take a sharp turn right around here, I think. And then, maybe not. I don't want it to be up here. Might have an issue with that. Can I fit it in here? Oh, yeah, it'll be able to fit. It'll be able to fit, but I think I can make it work. Just need to get these trees out of my way. Once again, I'll toss up walls as necessary. Probably not going to make a full perimeter just yet. I'll just throw them up in odd spots here and there just to fill in, make sure I've got some degree of defensive line. At least I want to make sure there's a start for for my defensive line. Yeah, okay. I know this might seem like a lot of belt, but trust me, I've done way worse. I think I've run a belt all the way as far as all the way up here, all the way down here. No, I've done so much worse than that. I once made an entire perimeter. I once built up an entire perimeter with every single inch of my perimeter defensive wall lined with gun turrets. But I needed to make sure every single one of those gun turrets got ammo. So I made one really long ammo belt that just ran the span the entire. It started. I had an entire dedicated manufacturing. I dedicated 2 whole iron patches to it. All of them just pumping out armor-piercing rounds, feeding them into the belt, the big old ammo belt, looping, making a full loop across the entire square perimeter. That is probably the longest belt I've made, and that one I can definitely attest to is not the best way to make a perimeter wall, because all you need is something to go wrong at any part, and then at any part, be it at the start or the end, all you need is one belt to just get busted, turn the wrong direction or something, and next thing you know, an entire portion of the belt will not be fed, and before you know it, an entire portion of your perimeter line won't have ammo anymore. And that one's on a modded run. A run specifically designed for much more intensive biter combat. And I was getting hammered from every direction by those by the biters. And to the credit of my defensive wall, it did work, sort of. it needed improvements here and there, and quite frankly, wasn't the super elongated belt didn't help. Didn't help. The main thing about it was that it took a really long time to set up, and had a lot of major flaws in it. One of which was it only defended me against the land. There's an entire sea that were basically exposed, and for traditional Factorio players that might not seem like a big deal because biters don't swim. However, the mod I was playing was a mod intended to add RTS mechanics into the game, real-time strategy mechanics, and one of the things it did was add enemy flying units. So basically, like hostile versions of the bots of the attack and defender drones that you get, the little bots that follow you around. There was like an offensive. They basically made a bunch of like offensive versions of that, and I learned the hard way that among those hostile flyers, there was a cargo carrier one, a cargo variation that basically would fly in enemy units and just dump them right onto my defensive line and just trash my factory. And I would learn this the hard way by finding out that an entire section of my base is basically being torn to shreds by a bunch of biters, and it's in a little spot. And I'm like, hang on a second, that doesn't make sense. Why would it be right there? Why would it be there? It's nowhere near my defensive line. So I had to charge in, go stop the biters. It was a whole thing. I was a bit overly ambitious, I think, with that particular run, and that fizzled out hard. Runs like this, I think, will be will be very helpful because I'm at least hoping that having a better solid grasp on how on the main mechanic, the mechanics that work, a better understanding of the core mechanics and how they work properly, I think will definitely help me. So I figure before I do one of those runs again, do this, and then, well, we'll see what down the road looks like. I'm definitely planning on doing more runs, more Factorio based runs. Whether or not those happen live is up in the air. I do think I would do live streams of those runs. Hard to say which ones and whether or not. It's hard to say. I need to catch myself before I make too many plans, because before you know it, I've made all these I've got all these ideas running, and then they never end up happening, and then I'm disappointed. Everyone's disappointed, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to disappoint anybody, much less myself. So I ought to be careful when I'm planning. Alright, all I need to do is get the power set up, and then we will got our second iron mine set up. And a lot of it's going to be a lot of touch-ups, so I will take care of those. But I guess deciding to do that got me at least very close to meeting the 2 hour time, which is a pleasant surprise for me, honestly. I didn't think I thought I was going to fizzle out before I got that far. So, yippee, I guess. I'd sound more enthusiastic, but I can only summon so much enthusiasm at will. I don't know what it is. It's just a thing with me. I can't give the proper reaction on command. Anytime I try to sound more enthusiastic than I actually am, I sound even less enthusiastic. It's awful. Yeah, hold on to... wait. Oh, yeah. Now that I'm here, Might as well. I got miners I need to make. There you go. Grab some of these. No, I didn't need to grab all those. How many do I need actually? Oh, okay, that's good. I don't know if that'll be the next thing I automate, but I definitely do need to automate more. I should automate miners because handcrafting will only get me so far. It looks like the progression is kind of grinded to a halt too, which is interesting. I guess we yeah, science isn't really moving. Yeah. Well, I mean it's not because I'm not researching anything, which meant the belt came grinding to a halt. All right, well, I'll give it something to do. Maybe. Possibly. We'll find out. Got all that taken care of. Make that, and we got ourselves more. We got ourselves miners on the way. I'm still carrying assemblers, even despite the fact that I'm not doing anything that requires assemblers. I better put those in a box. They're taking up space in my inventory. And I better empty these out too. And definitely gonna get the perimeter defense set up. So, walls. Gotta grab the rest of these walls. That should be enough to get like a rudimentary, a mock-up of my defensive line up and running. And look at them spider corpses. All right. I think I'm gonna do a couple of quick touch-ups and then I'm gonna call it because it's almost 10:30. I do want to give myself a little bit of personal relaxation time before I go to bed, so don't want to spend my entire time playing games. Well, I don't want to spend my entire time live streaming. To be clear. And I came down here for ammo because I'm gonna need it. Right, I do need to plug in. Yeah, gotta plug in the mine. And set up the radars. Things to do. But this is, I will say, the part of the game in which I start to get more and more just engrossed in the stuff that's going on. Because, things are becoming much more involved. Things are becoming much more... requiring me to actively build upon certain parts of the mine, of the factory, and all that. So, and that part of the game is generally where time just flies away from you. And that's something I've done a poor job of avoiding. Having too much fun playing the game before I know it, boom, all my time is gone. Days gone, hours to spend just poking holes or plugging holes in a factory. Having the time of my life, to be fair, to be clear. But that is a lot of time to spend playing a video game. And it's already spewing out all that. It's a good thing. Hopefully these walls will do their job. It doesn't have to be anything too fancy. Just enough to defend the perimeter. Defend the mines. Alright. Fairly confident in my defensive line right there. I definitely did not bring enough guns, but don't worry. We are already automated the gun turret, so we got that going for us. Alright, and we're getting miners out now too, so I'm probably going to build a wall. Maybe not. I don't know if I'll need a wall, right? You know, I think I will just put up a wall anyway, you know. Just so I have something. Because I don't really have any plans to expand in this particular direction just yet. If I end up finding out that I do need this space, I can always just take the wall down. Don't know if I'll have like a defender, like an actual perimeter defense, like with turrets and such up here, just at the moment. Alright, now we're working full power. Full bore. And it's going to take a bit before that actually ends up reaching the furnace area. But hey, at least we got it. Which means I'm definitely going to need to expand production. Which is great, you know. It's good that I can do that. And hopefully, with between these two mines, we have enough to fully fill out this little space here, and I can go into military and chemical science with just these two patches. Of course, I will have to expand to these other two patches because I don't know how long I've got left on that. Because I'm down to 89k on that initial patch. And once I get up to those two up there, I'm definitely gonna need trains. And well, that'll be a trip. But that'll be it. There'll be more to come, of course. I am definitely gonna be sticking with the Tuesday and Thursday schedule. So starting next week, I'm working morning shifts, so it will have to be evening shifts. Hopefully, they're not so taxing to the point where I end up coming home with a massive headache that ends up making me just like not want to do anything. I might try to power through in those instances if it comes to it, but I will say if I do try to power through and do this whole thing with a headache, it'll be a very unpleasant experience. And I can't guarantee that my enthusiasm and that I'll have much enthusiasm, like conversation wise. I'm gonna have a rough time with it, and I'm already pretty bad at multitasking as it is. I can only imagine how bad my multitasking ability will get if I try to do a live stream with a really big headache. So let's hope that it doesn't come to that. Hopefully, by the time I get home, I'll be have enough energy to do it. And honestly, today, having done a 6 hour, I worked like a 6 hour shift and everything, done all that, and then I just hit the 2 hour mark on the live stream is pretty great, honestly. Like I'm pleasantly surprised that I was able to pull that off. That happened that way. Definitely very pleasantly surprised that I had the constitution to stay up, to stay on for this long. So, and there you go. already compressed down. But that's going to be the plan going forward. Tuesdays and Thursdays, considering expanding to other days of the week if time permits and if I have the energy. But right now, that will be it for the day. I'm going to call it a night. Thank God I managed to hit the 2-hour mark. Praise the Lord. All right. Hope you all take care of yourselves. Hope everyone's taking care of themselves and just going about their day with joy in their hearts. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention today, being the day of 9/11. Remember all those that were lost. I pray we never forget and never forget to be vigilant in the coming days, because complacency and the like is what leads to disasters like that. And that's not to shame anybody. They're just trying to remember. Moments like that are important to remember, to remind us of how bad things can get. But also to remember that in the face of those things, they give us an opportunity to forget all our issues, all things that divide us, and we come together and unite in working together to come back from disasters and tragedy and the like. So with that, I hope you all have a very pleasant evening, very good night. Hope to see you again, and thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.